Before we get started with what I can only assume is an episode of Restless filled with audible gold, I need to remind you that this is the season to buy. And what better to buy than a Restless book? We've got 2 books available if you haven't bought them already. First up is The Deacon of God, now for the first time available in a paperback edition. In this book, Matt and I compiled what historical Reformed confessions had to say about the civil government, and we tried to provide some study questions as helpful guides for you as you read them. Secondly, you can still get my book, 77 Times, Reflections on Forgiveness. Both of these are available if you go to therestlesspodcast.com, or if you prefer, you can just go straight to Amazon and search for either. Now let's get back to the podcast.
Pastor Michael.
We're back, everybody.
What day are we on now?
We are on number 4, maybe?
4.
I think 4.
The 4th day of Restless. Here we are.
It might be the 5th, but I think it's the 4th.
We are on the 4th day of Restless. Pastor Michael, we are here to watch a little video by a famous guy who does not like Calvinism, Leyton Flowers.
Leyton Flowers.
Leyton Flowers. Here's why.
Is this the first time we've done a Leyton Flowers
I think it is.
thing on the podcast?
I think it is.
Love it.
Now, I would like to say Leyton Flowers, the Restless podcast wants to interview you. And here's why. Not because we are interested in debating you. We are not James Debate Me White. That's not what we're here to do. We know, by the way, guys, Dr. Flowers, we know you don't like Calvinism. We have picked that up over the years. But
as we have discerned through the material that you put out, we've realized that might be the case.
As you do appear to run a ministry to oppose Calvinism. Here's why we're
ministry to oppose Calvinism.
Here's why, and we're not laughing at you, of course, but here's why we want to interview you. You have made it clear you were once a Calvinist. We want to interview you about what attracted you to Calvinism, what convinced you of that view, and then why you left. I want to hear about that time period where you were convinced of something that you are now convinced is so bad and so dangerous. You spend a lot of time talking about it. And so I'd love to talk to you. I don't want to debate you. This isn't a debate challenge. I think all podcasts, there's always that moment where you challenge someone to debate. I think I'm going to make it a Restless rule. We are never challenging.
We're not debaters. That's not what we're doing.
We're never challenging someone to a debate on our podcast.
Yeah.
If this person has integrity, they will agree to
They'll
debate.
Come on. Oh, that kind of challenge.
Yeah, but I do want to hear. I also hope we got a message. I don't know if the guy listened to our show and decided he didn't want to do it. The guy who wrote the book Young, Restless, and No Longer Reformed. I'd love to talk to that guy too for a similar thing. There are all kinds of people like this in this category of subject matter we'd like to talk to. But this is I don't know why this clip stuck out to me, but this is Leyton Flowers. He's talking to someone named Vocab Malone, who
I know. So Vocab Malone, I've watched some of his videos in the past.
Wasn't he at one point a Calvinist? Because I think he is now here potentially going to have a not so Calvinisty.
I don't know if he was ever a Calvinist. He was always in the apologetics world, right? So like the online YouTube apologetics. So I think I actually saw crossover stuff with him with the Apologia guys and with like James White, like that kind of group. But I don't know that he was ever like I don't know that I ever heard him in a context where it was like, oh, he's definitely a Calvinist. But he was kind of running in those more like apologetics minded, let's debate minded groups within the kind of new Calvinist movement.
So apparently, this guy, so street apologist, I think you're right about that. So Leyton Flowers is going on to explain the view that he promotes, which is called provisionism. So provisionism. So I don't know why this video, it's got 17,000 views. So it was watched a lot of times. I don't remember what I found interesting about it.
Brother, would Leyton call for the excommunication open theistic in his local church? People are getting all practical over here.
All right, so that is an interesting question. So that's why I fed it. Because so again, all of these clips that we're doing are articles I tried to not watch all the way through or listen to.
So you right now you're getting
yeah.
our reaction.
So you're
I've
getting-
not seen these. Matt is just showing them now.
And this is an interesting question. So does Leyton Flowers promote the excommunication of an open theist in their local church? Pastor Michael, now obviously there is a ton of, because we're Presbyterians and the ways we think about like church discipline are pretty developed.
Right.
Like
it's not like do you discipline or do you not? Right.
Yep.
Like,
or like Pastor Michael's not like up there with like
do you
a discipline gun.
excommunicate or not?
Oh, that guy doesn't appear to be a Calvinist. But bam, he's excommunicated.
He's
right?
gone.
I do think that a person. Well, no. Should we answer this question?
Yeah.
Before we let Leyton answer.
Let's watch and
Okay.
then let's say how we would have answered,
Okay,
because I know how I would answer.
Great. So I don't know how Leyton will answer. Leyton, again, definitely a non-Calvinist answering this question, right?
Yeah, you're getting put on the spot. No.
No,
Okay,
I
how
wouldn't.
about-
I think
So just so you know, in case for some reason you didn't hear that, the sound quality, he says he's a no. He's a no.
it was a mistake. I think it was a mistake for Southern Baptists to exclude open theists from the Southern Baptist Convention for the reasons I've already stated. I think we should be more open to those kinds of philosophical discussions, because if you're going to cast them out, then why wouldn't you cast out people who disagree with you over the sociological issues on the other side? It just doesn't make any sense to me to cast out a group of people. And I understand the reactionary response when I first heard about open theism, I had the same reactionary kind of response of, oh my gosh, what are they denying? What is that about? I can't believe that kind of thing, until I heard out some of the arguments and what they were trying to say and why they were coming to their conclusion. Then I go, oh, okay, there's a philosophical issue here with this, and this, and I understand where they're coming from, and I would not cast.
So the Southern Baptists are famous for having basically added to, I think, the Baptist Message 2000 statements to exclude
Open theism.
Well,
And good on him. When he just said that, I had the reaction that everybody has when they first heard it, oh man, what are they? What? I still have that reaction. I still, having read a fair amount and discussed a fair amount open theism, I still have that same reaction to it.
So Pastor Michael, he's a no, and he's a no because, well, why wouldn't we then exclude people on the other side of soteriological issues?
Right. So
which would be
Calvinist, I assume what he's saying is Calvinism is on the same level as open theism, just on the other side, which is wild if that is what he's saying, because open theism is a radical and novel theological understanding that does fundamentally deny various things about God that historically the church has always agreed on, right? I mean, across the board, right? We're
right.
not it's not as though there was always debate and that's just continued. No, I mean, it's a fundamental change in one's understanding of the nature of God himself, right? Of the character of God.
Yeah.
So
let me read this line from the Baptist Message 2000. So when he says open theists were excluded from the Southern Baptist Convention, this is what they said that excluded them. They said, you must affirm, to be a Southern Baptist church, that God's perfect knowledge extends to all things, past, present, and future, including the decisions of his free creatures. So, to be clear, that means what they did to exclude open theists means you are going to deny at least one part of this sentence. God's perfect knowledge extends to all things, past, present, and future, including the future decisions of his free creatures. That is radical.
It is. It absolutely is
to
radical.
deny. And by the way, just so everyone knows, they're denying he has knowledge of the future, of future decisions
right,
of people.
Of the future decisions of free creatures, right? Because in order for them to be free, they'd argue philosophically, right? In order to have that kind of libertarian free will, God would have to self-impose a kind of blindness on his ability to know the future. That is what God has done. And that's, by the way, just so you know, that's supposed to comfort you because otherwise it's so hard to know why evil's going on in the world. Well, don't worry. God is blind.
God doesn't know. He didn't know it was going to happen.
But he loves you, right? That's supposed to comfort you.
And if you, I really don't know what to. I mean, it's wild.
Also, even just the very idea, it's such an obvious thing that modern people would come up with when the doctrine of God has been watered down so much that he's really just like a better me. Like he's like me, but better. So he knows like me, I know, but his knowledge is just better than my knowledge. But like God, when we're talking about God's foreknowledge, when we're talking about predestination, when we're talking about any of these things, we're not talking about, I mean, we might use language that comes across as, oh, like I see the future, like I know things that might happen in the future, but obviously God knows everything and knows them perfectly, and I don't. Right. But God is eternally present in every moment, right? God is not bound by time in the way that you are. He's not bound in knowledge the way that you are. He is infinite. There are so many ways that this is bad. Yes. There's so many ways that it fundamentally changes the doctrine of God that all Christians for all of time have believed.
That's right.
That's why this is so radical.
That is why it's radical. And I understand why the open theists come to it, because when they say the kind of freedom I want to defend every single person has, it starts to sound pretty Calvinisty when you say God knows everything everyone's going to do no matter what.
Yep, it does. I think it leads there, right? And this is why a lot of people have said, and I think this is true. And if you're listening to us, you self-identify as somebody who does not like Calvinism, and you think it's wrong, and you would identify yourself as an Arminian of some kind.
That's right.
You know, I'm not saying this to like attack you, and you might say, no, this isn't true of me. But open theism is a consistent Arminianism. It's being consistent all the way through. It's going all the way. Now, I'm glad that you don't.
Correct.
If you're listening and you haven't gone that far, praise God.
Correct.
I'm happy that you don't go that far because it is wrong. And I hope that when you see open theism, you say, oh, no, that is out of bounds. Yes. That's a good thing.
And so we're very, there is the Arminians that say, yeah, God has exhaustive foreknowledge, and like, I agree with Pastor Michael. I don't know how you're putting all that together, but you are affirming an orthodox doctrine of God.
Yes, right. That at least makes that possible, and I am grateful for that. I'm happy.
That's important.
Yeah. So what would we say, Matt?
That's right.
Would you excommunicate an open theist? What, based on their conversation just there, it sounds like he's more talking about like pastors, right? Like churches.
Correct.
That take on open theism as what they believe.
Yes.
And there is no room for them in the Orthodox Church. Correct. There should not be room. Now, that doesn't mean you can't talk with somebody who's an open theist. Right. Obviously, if you know somebody who, I sat in on a class once with Greg Boyd, notable open theist.
Yep.
Absolutely one of the most annoying people to ever lecture. He literally, I'm telling you all this. This is true. He would literally carry drumsticks with him, and standing in his bedazzled jeans in the middle of lecturing to everybody, he would just start banging on the podium with his drumsticks. What are you? Are you 12?
The future. Boom. Bet you guys never saw someone like me before.
It was just bizarre. It was so bizarre. And I know he's apparently also very smart or something, but it was so annoying. It was so annoying. And I said it was one class. Maybe he didn't do this always, but I was told that he always was like this. So anyway, I'm not saying you can't talk to people like this. I'm not saying you can't have a relationship with people like this. But open theism is outside of Orthodox Christianity. And so it should not be allowed. Now, when we're talking about excommunication, if you're saying, well, what about somebody that visits your church that believes in open theism? Well, hey, welcome to Presbyterianism. We take these things carefully, and we're not going to like say from the pulpit that day, if you're an open theist, get out.
Right. Again, there's where...
Are they an attender? Are they a member? Have they been teaching this a long time? Are they just asking questions? Do they just have philosophical questions they're wrestling with? All of these matter.
Are they correctable? Like,
Yeah.
What are they like? On a member level, there's going to be huge amounts of care taken.
Yes.
Now, Pastor Michael, let's close out. Can I ask you a very winsome question?
Here we go.
Are you ready? Now, answer it very winsomely.
I'm going to try.
Why do you think Leyton Flowers doesn't want... Sorry.
I love that you preface it with it has to be winsome.
You have to answer this because I really want that interview. Pastor Michael, why do you think Leyton Flowers thinks it was such a mistake to disfellowship open theists?
So we have in that interview a little bit of it, right? Where he says, well, when you talk to them and you hear their philosophical reasoning, it doesn't sound that crazy. It doesn't sound like that far out of bounds.
Do you think it's because it sounds like the logical conclusion of the things he says?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is because the reason he's saying this is because he knows that if he says, no, open theism is completely out, then provisionism or whatever he calls it, it's right there, right?
Yep.
It's at least they're at least kissing cousins, right? Like they are so close that it's going to make him uncomfortable to have to draw that line because he's probably cutting off a lot of people that have said things just like him.
Right. Well, Leyton Flowers, Merry Christmas to you from the 12 Days of Restless. We definitely want to interview you. Restless will return tomorrow with more of the 12 Days of Restless. Please remember, the 12 Days of Restless are intended for Reformed audiences, so listener discretion is advised.